All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be starting the live stream here in a moment. As you guys are all aware, typically the first 3 minutes, we just kind of wait it out a little bit, make sure everyone has enough time to hop in. But yeah, welcome in everyone. Welcome in, Bazinga. Not much is I mean, listen, not much has happened over the last like 24 hours around crypto, but I do think that this might get a little bit worse before it gets better, and I know that a lot of people will hate to hear that, but we're definitely going to be talking about this, addressing it. We did get the update from the Fed. We have a little bit more price data to go off of, but for the most part, I do think that we see a little bit more pain before we really start to see that next big wave to the upside. But welcome in, CEO Jorge. I hope that I'm saying that name correctly. Welcome in, Silver Links, Mike, Matthew. Matthew, I'd have to check it out. I haven't really gotten enough time to take a look at X or anything like that just yet, but I'll definitely look at it because I do hold a decent amount of Axeler, but I'll have to look at it for sure. Yeah, I agree. Contemplating on DCing into Casper thoughts. I don't think that's a bad idea. Casper has barely moved. It's been a very boring altcoin. I do think that's going to be one of those altcoins that actually performs pretty well. And it's, again, it's at a great price opportunity for sure. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I don't think anything was going to pump today, which is exactly why I kept warning over the last couple of days about what was going to happen with this Fed meeting. I saw a lot of people posting links in the Discord about, a few YouTubers talking about how we're about to get a Fed rate cut, and this is going to pump the markets extremely fast, and everything's going to go crazy, and this and that, and typically when we start to hear a lot of these YouTubers talking about how the market's going to go crazy because of X, Y, and Z, and the Fed is going to cut rates, even though when we looked at the CME Group's prediction, there's only like a 5% chance of a rate cut decision. So we knew that there was not going to be a rate cut today. Everyone was like, don't overlook how much pressure Trump is putting on Jerome Powell and this, that, whatever. But again, Jerome Powell does not care. Listen, this is somebody that does not care about what Trump is saying. But I also do think that Jerome Powell's just playing the game. I think that we already have, the month set out for a rate cut decision. I think September is the start for the rate cuts. We'll talk about that in a video later tonight. In the live stream, I mainly just wanted to kind of go over about, what's going to be happening next, what I personally think, we're really kind of waiting for, and what we'll see happening going forward. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that. But what is your thoughts on DePIN? I think DePIN is a great category to look into. I think that when we think about real world applications and integration of this technology, DePIN is a great category for that. I appreciate all the content you make. I only follow maybe 3 crypto people on YouTube, and I look forward to your daily content. Gets me through the workday, dude. Hey, Matthew, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Nick, did you get an opportunity to read the ZBCN white paper? I haven't. But I'm going to be starting here in a moment. We've given about 5 minutes for a lot of people to jump in. So welcome in, everyone. Let's take a look real quick at what the market looks like real quick. So this is the overall market currently speaking on the daily. So most of it is pretty red. There's a few altcoins that are outliers, as you guys can see. Now this is in the top 100. If we go to like the top 200, you could see that for the most part, like everything is mainly red today. There is definitely a few outliers out there in the market, but even looking at the top 100, the top 200, there's not a ton of green. Like the top 200 to 300, yeah, there's some green here, but these are like illiquid altcoins that are now pumping because somebody threw a ton of money into it. Like, again, this Loca coin, I don't even see it here. So League of Kingdoms, yeah. I mean, the market cap for this, 210 million, 24-hour volume, 36 million. So this was basically just an illiquid coin that started to move, and that's why we're seeing some green in these categories. But for the most part, today is just a red day, and that's because, again, we didn't get the news that everyone wanted to hear, which was, hey, guess what? We're cutting rates. The second that the Fed starts cutting rates, the markets are going to boom in a much bigger way. It's very simple, right? Lower interest rates means more people want to, borrow money, which means more liquidity in the system. And then all of a sudden you start to see these markets erupt even higher. That's exactly what we are waiting for. Now, when we think about this, what have I mentioned over the last couple, days? I kept saying no rate cut in July. We got the update. Fed keeps interest rates unchanged for the 5th straight time. I even said it on X. And I said it here. You heard it here first. A rate cut in July was never the plan. Cut in September, October, and December. Because I did post it 5 days ago on the 25th as well. And I said, pause in July, rate cut in September, October, and December. This is the way. Because again, a lot of people kept saying that, we think that Jerome Powell is going to do the right thing. Where he's going to cut. We heard so much, pressure from BlackRock, from Trump, and like I said, I'm not gonna throw everyone down. Like, I'm not gonna say, all right, this person and that person said that this was going to happen. We've mentioned this many times over, that there's going to be a lot of people out there that will say whatever helps their narrative. A lot of people were posting videos in the Discord, like I said, and I said that there's no chance that we get a rate cut in July. We are following the same exact path from 2024, except the difference here is that we don't have an FOMC meeting in November. We have it in October. So September is when we really look for a rate cut. September, there's a 41.2% chance of a rate cut. I am fine betting on those odds. I feel confident about betting on those odds. And then in October, we have a 67.1% chance. And then on top of October, we also have, December. Now, December, it's too early to call December, but I would argue that we get a rate cut in September, October, and December. In 2024, it was September, November, December. We got a rate cut in all of those months, and that actually helped markets go even higher. The same song and dance is, being played here. We will basically see 3 rate cuts towards the end of the year. September, October, and December are those 3 months to watch for. So we'll probably get a rate cut. And then on top of that, we'll start to see the markets really wake up with liquidity. And that's what's going to cause markets to go even higher. By the way, welcome in, EM. I constantly see your comments on the videos. You're very negative on almost every single video. So welcome in. I don't say stuff just for clicks and likes. I don't. I am utilizing the information that we have in front of us. I back it with sources, and I also back it with information that we have. There's a lot of people out there that will speculate all day long on, crazy price predictions, and they'll show you the, latest and the greatest from, their sources, which are typically just XRP maxis on, Twitter, saying, oh yeah, XRP is going to go to $10,000 because of X, Y, and Z. I am always backing my research or my videos with, solid sources or information that we have. And even with the rate cut was always based on what we were seeing from CME Group and also from what the Fed was telling us. I mean, even Jerome Powell's body language at the recent visit from, Trump, that basically told us what we were going to see from Jerome Powell. But yeah, if we think about the market right now, fear and greed still hovering around like 60, 62. Market cap 3.87 trillion. Altcoin season index about 36 out of 100. Nothing too crazy there. The dominance on Bitcoin and Ethereum are also rising right now, which is why we definitely had to, be a little bit cautious on altcoins going into the FOMC meeting, which is why I said, have some stablecoins on the sidelines. Obviously, we're seeing a nice little sell-off across the board. Nothing too crazy. We're not seeing exaggerated price action, but, there's some good opportunities out there to average into currently. Right now, Bitcoin hovering around 118K, nothing too crazy there. Ethereum still around 3,800, XRP around $3.11. So no major changes at all in terms of price action. And most of the 24-hour gains, we're still seeing some of the stronger altcoins like Curve and Conflux still moving to the upside, which we love to see. But, there's not a crazy amount of gains across the board right now. And that's simply because of, Bitcoin and Ethereum really kind of lagging behind the market and not really doing much. But the main thing that I mentioned with the Fed interest rate decision was not crypto, actually. I didn't say to focus on crypto during this time. It's more so focus on stocks. And this is what I think happens next. I don't think that we get that run up on stocks to this upper zone of like 6,500 yet. I actually think that we avoid this. So this I'm not expecting anymore because of course, what we got today. I expected stocks to kind of just rally a little bit higher. It was only like 94 more points, but it's totally fine. I'm now focused on this low being ran on stocks, which could definitely hurt the crypto market. Hey, Ray, I appreciate that $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Hey, Nick, thanks for all your content, man. Good entry point on SUI and Axler, please. Thanks. I will definitely chart them here in a moment, Ray. Just kind of going over a few things, but I appreciate that super chat. Thank you so much. And let's get some W's in the chat for Ray real quick because that's a huge super chat right there. But yeah, the thing with stocks is that I'm expecting us to retest somewhere around this demand zone here. And this is mainly in the beginning of July, right before this impulse to 6,400. So I'm watching for this sell-off to happen now. It will hurt the market a bit. Obviously, it's nothing too crazy. What is this percentage? Let's check it out real quick. So this percentage is about, a 2% drop on the S&P. So this won't hurt us too crazy, but, it will definitely affect the market a bit. Now, what's a bit? Let's take a look at this. So with Bitcoin, the main thing here is that we have been holding above 117 point, roughly like 2K. This is very good. We see a daily close below this, and we do target 112K. If we see the sell-off on stocks get a little bit more exaggerated and the crypto market gets a little scared, maybe we see liquidations, then we will start to see that sell-off back down into these previous highs from May, where we do kind of range a little bit before the next big push to the upside. I'm totally fine if we see that. I'm totally fine if we, avoid it as well. How do we know what's going to happen next here? Well, it's either we get a big break of 120K with that daily close, which I've been mentioning over the last couple of days. That would allow us to have the big break, form a floor around those, resistance levels that, we have been fighting for like roughly the month of July. And then we start to see that impulse to 130K. That's what we want to see here. But the question is, do we lose the lows first or do we break the resistance first? And this is the two targets that I'm actually watching on Bitcoin. We still need to watch stocks this week, right? We still have 2 days left in the week. And I'm just watching for stocks to see a little bit more weakness here, or if they are going to potentially have, just a shallower sell-off here and then get that nice impulse back to 6,500. I'm mainly just watching this, and I'll keep you guys posted, obviously, throughout the week. But, I'm still expecting a little bit more pain here, especially with the fear and greed index still being above 60 here. So I would like to see sentiment reset a bit more. That would actually help markets go a little bit higher here as well. Let me check out real quick. Winter 2026 will be a hot one. Winter after the dust settles from everything kicking in, just saying. NCashOfficial and the CS Crypto are always realistic. Keep up the great work. Hey, I appreciate that, FC. What do you think about the recent double tops in the M2 liquidity? I'm not too concerned about it. I still think that we see a lot more liquidity flooding the system. I think that, we're at that point where we're just going to constantly see more and more printing of money. I think that we're headed into inflationary times. I think that there's no going back to the 2% or less target. I think that Trueflation said that we're at 2%. I just think that inflation is still going to get worse because, printing of money is never going to stop, especially as, like, if we think about it, as long as they're central bankers, we are going to constantly see more printing of money. So I don't really think that, we have to worry about double tops in the M2 liquidity. And I think that we'll probably continue to see liquidity booming. We got, hey Nick, watching from Australia, been a long time subscriber and watcher. Your content has had a huge impact on my crypto journey. Very insightful. Appreciate you a ton, man. Hey, I appreciate that, Josh, and I appreciate the support as well. Thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for being a subscriber as well. Who decides if Ripple gets the bank license? I'm pretty sure the OCC. I might be wrong on that, but I think that they filed it with the OCC. I might be wrong. I would have to look into it. I haven't heard you talk about Casper in a while. Do you think it's going to break out soon? I don't. The thing is like when we think about breaking out, the main thing that we're focused on is still Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin dominance with Ethereum dominance. While these are starting to gain, strength, I don't think that pretty much any altcoin is going to have a significant breakout just yet. That's why I said, with the Fed, if we were going to get the rate cut, it would change my thought process. My thought process has not changed from the last live, which in the last live, if you guys were listening, the main thing that I was talking about during that live was that, we might have a little bit of a cool off for like the next week or two after the FOMC meeting. And then for the, next few weeks, we'll probably have that, crazy push to the upside. There is XRP dominance, by the way. There is a chart for it. If you go to TradingView, and you just type into the top up here, XRP period D. This is the XRP dominance chart. But yeah, I still think, like, unless Bitcoin starts to really break above 120K here, or even if Ethereum can break above this $4,013 target, then we will probably have a nice little cool off. So I'm watching for either Ethereum to break over 4,013 or for Bitcoin to break over 120K, because that would, basically change the idea of us cooling off for like the next week or two. We'll probably just continue to have like crazier price action. But I'm mainly just watching stocks right now, along with just like what Bitcoin and Ethereum do. Like these three charts are pretty much all I'm locked in on. I'm not too focused on any specific altcoin chart at this point, because I want to see Ethereum either break over this $4,013 level or potentially retest one of these two targets, which is like 3,620 and 3,087. So these are like the only two ones that I'm really watching for. Bull run is canceled, confirmed. Nah. The new building is for the US Treasury, not for the Federal Reserve. Yeah, I haven't really looked into it. Any spot ETF news? No, there's not going to be a lot of ETF news around the spot trading ones, because the SEC is still trying to figure out that framework. So they kind of put a pause on all spot ETF, updates until they get that framework in place. So that's what we're really kind of waiting for. And we already know that the SEC has been lagging behind quite a bit. But yeah, taking a quick look at altcoin charts, because I see a lot of people mentioning like XRP. So this is what the XRP chart looks like currently. And let me make sure that we have this right on 1 second. So here we have the XRP USD chart. Again, we're just kind of ranging here and chopping. Even if you go to like the lower time frame structure, like, or sorry, the higher time frame structure, like the 3-day. So on the 3-day, the main thing here is that we do have resistance right around like $3.50. We've been chopping, and we've been really kind of just going into a downtrend since that high on the 18th. This is the 3-day candle of July 18th. The thing is that it's either we just maintain this high or maintain this low around like $2.96, and wait for a higher high, or we lose this $2.96 level and then we retest the previous highs. The main high that I'm looking at is actually the December highs, which caused the impulse to $3.40 originally. And this would be right around like $2.62. So I don't disagree with you, Whiskey. I do think that we could see $2.70 or $2.80 before we go up again. But we just take it one step at a time here, because the only reason for us seeing these lows ran on XRP or any low ran across the board for altcoins is if we start to see Bitcoin and Ethereum, reject from these high levels, which it's definitely a possibility, because Ethereum is starting to have that rally back to like $4,013. Historically, if we really kind of zoom out, this is where all of the major sell-offs on Ethereum so far since 2024 have been. So if we reject this again and we see a significant rejection back down to like 36.20 or even possibly $3,087, this would hurt the altcoin market in a big way. We got a $10 super chat from Wakai. I hope that I'm saying that name correctly. I do apologize if I'm butchering it. Nick, always coming in legit with chart analysis and general pulse on the market psychology of folks in the space. You are few and far between, brother. Glad to have you here for sanity within the noise. Hey, I appreciate that greatly. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat as well. And yeah, let's get some W's in the chat as well for Wakai, because that's a huge $10 super chat right there for sure. Thank you for the amazing research. Very much appreciate it. Thank you, Joel. How long do you think this cycle will last before we start seeing some explosive moves in altcoins like XRP, HBAR, etc.? Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, a lot of people will say that XRP hasn't had an explosive move, but if we think about XRP, and I know that this is going to, I know this might hurt a lot of people out there, especially those that were kind of latecomers to this market, but if we just go off of the lows back in July of 2024, so in over 1 year, you know, XRP is up 774%. Off of the lows from 2022, you know, which, you know, we were buyers back here, and I'll just go off like the mid-range, you know, XRP is up 1,073%. So, you know, XRP, believe it or not, has had an explosive move. It's just not in a short time frame. So when we think about this, XRP has done very well so far this cycle. Do I think that XRP is going to continue higher? Yeah, sure. I do believe so. But, you know, I think that it's a little bit, you know, inconsiderate to think that XRP hasn't already had that crazy move to the upside. And even same with HBAR. I mean, HBAR was what, sub 4 cents? It ran to like 40 cents. So a lot of these altcoins have done pretty well. But do I think that we will see more explosive moves for altcoins? 100%. I think that currently speaking, we are in phase 2 of the market where Ethereum is the one leading the way, which I think that that's pretty clear by if we go back over here to just kind of looking at how Ethereum has been, you know, performing outside of like Bitcoin. I mean, it doesn't need Bitcoin to perform anymore. You know, Ethereum has been stealing the show. So we are basically in that phase 2 of the cycle where it's Ethereum leading the way, which will lead into altcoins taking over next. Let's see. I'm small time, got started in October of 2024, and all I have is XRP, Solana, and Ethereum. Hey, listen, it doesn't really matter, you know, when you got in, as long as you are, you know, participating in this market, because there's still, I think the percentage was like maybe 7% of the world is actually invested into crypto. So you're still very early in. You know, don't feel bad at all for getting in a little bit late. The market will start picking up mid-August, wave 2. That's what I was expecting. You know, I think that, you know, the next 2 weeks will probably be a little bit boring. Might not be, you know, that good for people. But the thing is like, we don't need negative price action to shake the sentiment. Typically time, right? Like time is like the biggest thing. But I will say Bitcoin itself has been ranging since this high back in the middle of July. It's been about 17 days. If we just kind of continue to range here, maybe for like 31 days fully, then we start to go crazy. I would be totally fine with that. It's kind of similar to that price action that we saw back here in May into, you know, July. It took about 48 days to really kind of start to see that big break above those highs from May. You know, I'm totally fine if we take a little bit longer to consolidate here and then go crazy. And it would also reset the sentiment simply from, you know, time capitulation, not so much price capitulation. What's up, George? Welcome in. Johnny, HBAR is a good buy for sure. I think HBAR is going to perform well. Absolutely, I agree. It has made some explosive moves as of current. I should have specified explosive moves more so than already achieved. No, I definitely knew what you meant, Braden. And, you know, I do agree with you. I think that we will see more explosive moves. We're just kind of waiting right now. We're in the waiting room for Bitcoin and Ethereum to kind of do something here. Because, again, with Ethereum, the main thing is that if we are in phase 2 of the cycle for Ethereum, right? Phase 2 of the altcoin season is Ethereum. if we break over these highs that we've been really kind of focused on, if we break over these highs and target the 2021 all-time high, because again, from the highs that we're about to target to the 2021 all-time high, this is like a 20% move. That's very reasonable for Ethereum to get done in probably about like what, a week? And that's me being conservative. Ethereum, once it goes into price discovery, it goes crazy. That's going to wake up a lot of the altcoin market. It's also going to bring in more liquidity and fresh liquidity for the altcoin market as well. So we're mainly just waiting for Ethereum to really kind of do its thing. So if anyone's getting excited about the price action in altcoins right now, it's going to be, 5 to 10 times much bigger than what we've already seen. $30 XRP tomorrow. Hey, Max, I like your thinking, but I don't think that's going to happen. Will we see a massive crash like down cycles before, or will this time be different due to institutions getting involved? I think that we still see a bear market, Austin. I don't think that we're at that point where, we are seeing crazy institutional utilization of these networks at scale, to actually, I would say, like, maintain stable value even in a bear market. And again, everything still runs on liquidity. Like this market is running on liquidity, not utility. So we'll still see that bear market, in my opinion. The markets are still very healthy, Caleb. Nothing really changed. Like, we weren't going to see the Fed really impact the market that significantly. I mean, it definitely impacted stocks, but not that crazy. So, when we really look at this, I'm not too concerned at all with what the Fed did. It was kind of expected. I don't think anyone was expecting different. It would be a little bit of a different story if, like, for an example, in September, the Fed held. Like, that would hurt the markets, in my opinion. But what's crazy about this is I feel like a lot of people are thinking that the Fed rate cuts are already priced in, but they're not. The second that we get a rate cut decision from the Fed, it's going to cause markets to go like completely vertical. Like, we're talking about even real estate, like the real estate market will open up because more people will want to buy real estate because the interest rates are lower, they want to lock in, and it's just going to cause a lot more liquidity across the board for these markets. It's going to cause a lot more higher price action in these markets as well. So risk on assets will go crazy, which is crypto, stocks, things like that. What's your thoughts on Zebek and or Velo? Thank you, Nick. I have to get some time to look at Zebek. With Velo, I still think Velo will perform well. But let's take a quick look. So I keep seeing a lot of Axler being brought up. So with Axler, there's no real major change at all on this chart. And I was mainly looking at this thing on the weekly. So as you guys can see, we're still rejecting off of that upper trend line. It was kind of a failed breakout here. I said that we really want to watch the weekly candle close, because the weekly candle close was going to be very crucial for Axler. If we were going to break above the previous resistance. We got a $10 super chat from Bazinga. Do you have any advice for someone getting into finance, contemplating getting my registered investments advisor license? What are some good steps for technical analyst? I would say this, right? Because I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have my license, but I will say, if you were going to get into finance, I would definitely get the license for sure, but maybe study a little bit before you go and get the license. There's some great books out there to read for, financial, I would say more so for like technical analysis. The Elliott Wave theory book that I posted on my X account back, I think it was probably last summer actually, because I was reading it over in Greece. That's a great book to read. There's a lot of great free information out there as well around, trading, technical analysis, that you could simply just learn. Even YouTube is a great platform for learning pretty much anything. So definitely just study a lot and then try to get the license. And then from that point on, you could just really kind of focus on that for a career path. But I do think that I really think that the public school system should teach finance. I don't understand why we don't have like taxes being taught in school or finance being taught in school. It should 100% be a thing. Also, I do appreciate the $10 super chat. Let's get some W's in the chat real quick for Bazinga. Good time to DCA on some strong projects. Yeah, I think that it definitely is. We might get a little bit better buying opportunities into like next week, but yeah, it's not a bad idea to accumulate a little bit more. But yeah, if we look at Axler, so the thing about Axler is that I was watching for us to actually get the weekly candle close because we were watching as Axler was running up to like 50 cents, but this thing is just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, right? Like it's crazy because we go back here to like 2023 into like the end of 2023. We were squeezing on this chart as well, and then we finally got that big breakout and the weekly candle close above it. That's exactly what we are trying to do over here, where we are just kind of squeezing, waiting for that weekly candle close above this upper trend line. And, you know, we've been really kind of just anticipating this weekly candle close for so long, because the second that this thing does break out, you know, it's going to go crazy. And the best part about Axler is that it is a solid buy opportunity, considering the fact that it is still within this major demand zone. This major demand zone goes all the way back here to 2023. And we have been trading in this like mid 30-cent range for a very long time. So I think that this is a solid project, especially if you hold XRP. It's a part of the EVM sidechain. So yeah, definitely watch for Axler to get that big breakout. Somebody mentioned Ondo as well. So if we take a quick look at Ondo, I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but yeah, I mean, this thing. So we were mainly looking at this. I don't know if it was on the 3-week. I think it might have been on the 3-week. I think it was, yeah. Or maybe I'm wrong. Was it on the 3-day? Maybe it was on the 3-day. So yeah, we had a failed breakout here on the 3-day, as you guys can see. We started to, you know, possibly get that big breakout. Couldn't maintain it. We sold off. But the main thing that I was watching with Ondo was how we have these lows back here and we have these higher lows on the macro. And this recent wick, believe it or not, is actually very bullish for us because we created a higher highs, you know, chart setup here on Ondo. So the main thing is if we are going to, you know, possibly hold the highs around here to create even, you know, another higher low, this would be very bullish so that we could actually get above these highs over here. So the main thing that we're watching with Ondo is simply just bullish structure to continue to form. This is still a blue chip in the RWA side of the market. I do think that everyone should be paying attention to what Ondo is doing. Also working with XRP, working with even, I think, I want to say Stellar as well. They do have a Stellar integration. So this is definitely one of those projects to focus on as well. And again, it's trading at prices that we saw back here in November of 2024, back here in July of 2024, back here in May of 2024, even around March of 2024 as well. Telcoin. Let me check out Telcoin. So yeah, this is one that actually broke out. We were mainly looking at the fair value gap being filled on the 3-day. We are now filling this fair value gap. We hit the red zone higher time frame resistance. And now I'm watching for us to maintain the lows right around, it's like almost right around like this half-cent zone. So holding this low would be very good for us. And then we would be able to actually start that impulse back to the upside where we want to break over this red zone. We want to get a close over this red zone. It's going to give us a little bit of a challenge for sure. But the second that we actually break this red zone completely, very similar back to like December into like even February, the second that we break over this, we could actually retarget these February highs, which would also put us on a path to retesting the 2021 all-time highs. So Telcoin still looks pretty good. I can't get behind Telcoin fully. I own some, but just feel like it's slow momentum. I personally think that Telcoin is probably one of the most overlooked utility-based projects. I mean, listen, they have been trying to become a bank since back in 2020 to 2021. They just got approval in Nebraska for a digital asset bank. And on top of them, you know, becoming or getting that approval to become a digital asset bank, they have so many stablecoins tied to their platform. They're banking the unbanked through mobile phones. They have that partnership with GSMA, which also is connected to like 5 billion mobile phone users in the world. So I think that Telcoin is extremely overlooked, and it's undervalued simply by the fact that a lot of people don't know about a lot of that information and what Telcoin is doing, because again, they're not like they're not marketing it fully. They're not like, hyping it up or anything like that. That's why like a lot of these projects that like most retail investors know about. And you can't say XRP, because XRP has been in the top 10 for well over a decade. It's been one of the largest altcoins without any marketing. But if we think about like Solana, for an example, right? Everyone knows about Solana because of, number one, VC investors pushing it, and VC investors will market the hell out of something to make money. So VC investors were shilling this constantly. Marketing was going crazy. You had TikTok users posting so much about Solana back in 2021. So this was one of those projects that were hyped to oblivion. And not only that, but also Dogecoin, right? Dogecoin is another one that was shilled by Elon Musk. Everyone was talking about it forever. And it's just like any project in the space that has that crazy marketing backing to it, it's typically a good sign that maybe you should do a little bit more research, because if it's getting shilled that much, if it's getting talked about that much, there's something going on. There's something going on, especially if there's not like, great integrations or partnerships or anything like that happening around it. Typically it's a good sign that there's something up. It sounds too good to be true, essentially. But we also have CTX. So yeah, CTX is one of those DeFi tokens. The overall chart looks completely dead. On, of course, like the log scale, it doesn't look that bad. If we actually look at the weekly real quick, and let me change this to log just so that you guys can see it. So the main thing about CTX is that we have been in a downtrend as of late, and the downtrend, in my opinion, is starting to come to a close. I think that once we start to see the retail sector really kind of flood back in, we're going to see the DeFi market really go crazy. And when the DeFi market really wakes up, projects like this are going to start to have that big bounce. Right now, currently, it's not that crazy simply because we are in this downtrend, but the DeFi market has been pretty much dead for, I would say, like over a year or two now. There's been some gains in it, sure, but for the most part, DeFi has not been growing that much. That's why, even for an example, a lot of like the DEX tokens, and let me kind of open up a new tab real quick just to kind of show you this real quick. So let's go to Uniswap. So Uniswap is a good example of this. This is what the all-time chart looks like for Uniswap. This is telling us that the DEXs and the DeFi side of the market has not witnessed that crazy of an inflow of liquidity and trading. Even the DEX market itself. So let me actually open up two categories here: the DEX market and then also the DeFi market. So this is the DEX market. Almost all of these projects are down significantly from their all-time highs. There's been some nice gains, like for an example, Curve is starting to bounce back, but most of this market has been wiped out, and it's simply because there's not a lot of use. Same with the DeFi market, right? Like the DeFi market has been gaining some momentum, but it's still like, even Chainlink, this is a blue chip in the DeFi market. It's still pretty much flat. There's been some nice gains off of the lows, but there's not a crazy demand for DeFi projects right now. And that's because retail is not here in a big wave. So with CTX, this chart still looks very good. Going off of this all-time low back here in like October of 2023, we have created possibly a higher low here if we can maintain this. I would love for us to maintain these highs of like above $1. That would be very good for us. And what we could start to actually see is maybe we chop a little bit more around that dollar range. We finally get that big breakout to the upside. We start to gain momentum over the highs back here from like November and even like January. And this is like going back to 2023 into like 2024. We might sell off a little bit from those highs, retest the trend line once again, and then finally get that big break, flip that resistance level into support, and then we finally start to target some of these highs previously, and then that would put us on the map to actually retest some of those highs back here from like 2021. It's going to take a little bit of time, obviously, but the DeFi market is starting to gain some momentum, and some of these charts, again, they look flatlined, but that's because even though we've been hearing for months on end, hey, guess what? Retail is back. Retail is back. It's the same thing that I said on my X account. I don't even know if it's a more recent post, but I mentioned it previously on X where I was talking about how retail, the crowd got kind of wiped out since going back to like December. I think maybe, no, this is still about Bitcoin dominance, but I remember saying it recently where I was just kind of talking about how even though everyone thinks that the retail crowd is back in, full effect, most of the retail crowd that came into the space back in like November into December, even into like January of 2025, because of the market going crazy, almost all of that retail crowd is wiped out. And it's because market sentiment has wiped them out. Time capitulation has hit them. It's the same thing even with Bitcoin, right? Like we look at Bitcoin from December and January of 2025. Guys, Bitcoin sold off for 79 days in a row, and it wasn't a slight sell-off. No, Bitcoin actually lost over, down to this wick. It was like 32%. Most altcoins got wiped out 50 to 60%. So that retail crowd is not here in a big way. We still have a lot more room to grow here. We still have a lot more fresh capital to enter this market. And when we think about that, the projects that I think would be best to look into are like gaming projects, DeFi projects. Those are going to be the projects that see a huge wave of capital flooding into them because, again, once the retail crowd comes back in, they're going to be looking at those flashy retail use cases that this market has to offer. So gaming-based projects are going to be good. Yield generation projects are going to be good as well. So that's what we really kind of look at. If Japan trusts XRP, then XRP is good. I've been a bit busy here at work. Did he do XLM? Welcome in, Messiah. So, yeah, I mean, XLM, this is what XLM looks like currently. I still think that we have a little bit more chop to get through. We might even wick back down into like the mid 30-cent region. From that mid 30-cent region, we're really kind of just looking for the rebound. XLM has been pretty, boring for the most part since that high wick to like 50 cents plus. Hey Nick, is XDC waking up? Thanks. Let's take a quick look at XDC. I just made a video on it actually earlier today. You guys probably already know the news. This is what XDC currently looks like on the 3-day. Again, we're fighting resistance in this red zone. This is going to be a hard area for us to really kind of break over without the market really waking up, right? So we're still waiting for the market to wake up in a big way. XDC right now in that red zone, we might have a possible sell off back down to like 8 cents or so before we get that big move above this like 10-cent region. This resistance is going to be hard for XDC to break over. It's very similar to even HBAR, right? Like HBAR has been fighting resistance, and this is more so like on the 3-day. HBAR has been fighting resistance in this red zone for quite some time now. It's going to be very, very hard to actually get that big breakover. Memes didn't help any, all those rugs. Yeah, no, meme coins definitely wiped out a lot of liquidity from the market for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of exchange listings for XDC. Gala. I'm not a huge fan of Gala, Shasta. I think that there's way better gaming-based projects out there. Yeah, also Avalanche is in that mix of the DeFi projects. They're like, again, Avalanche is like a blue chip DeFi based project that will rebound in a big way once we see the retail crowd come back. We got a $2 super chat from Rod. I appreciate it. How about Gala? It's funny because I was just talking about Gala. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is again one of those gaming based projects that will probably see, some nice gains. It's been flatlined. There's a lot of news around Gala. I forgot when, but basically, I think a wallet got wiped out or something like that. There was like a hack or something. But the main thing about Gala is just like the supply. I think that the supply is kind of crazy for a gaming based project, but it could perform well, right? Like this is still one of those gaming based projects. On the all-time chart here, we're basically flatlined against the all-time lows from like 2022, even 2023. So you know, this isn't a bad spot to be bidding on Gala at all. I just think that there's better gaming based projects. Like if we actually go to the gaming side of the market, so if we look at this just right off the rip in terms of like gaming based projects, Immutable is not a bad project. I actually think that they are, you know, kind of like a blue chip in the gaming space. I don't know about Sandbox or even Mana anymore. I think that they were very good back in 2021. I think since they've kind of changed a bit. Um, you know, Axie Infinity, I think that they will do good. They have a lot of great partnerships. They are working with some pretty large names. Zelica's not bad, but it's kind of like a meme at this point because everyone's talked about how it's never going to reach its all-time high. I still think that it does. I think Zelica, you know, they've been building for quite some time in this space, but you know, if I was looking at gaming-based projects, I'm more so looking at like infrastructure-based gaming projects. So like Engine is a solid project in the gaming space. Alluvium is not bad either. They actually have a very low supply with what they're offering. They're actually a pretty solid project. Treasure is also good too. Magic is also good. Let me check out real quick. How are you feeling about Griffin these days? Griffin is still pretty good. I've been waiting for a few updates on Griffin actually on their X account, but I do think that once Solana really starts to rebound in a big way, and once we start to see AI catch back on, you know, this is going to be one of those projects that really kind of, you know, catches up to the market in a big way. So I haven't, you know, bought any more Griffin, but I definitely am starting to look more into AI based projects at this point. Because again, the AI hype is starting to return. What about Casper? I still think that Casper is good. Hey Nick, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm guilty of FOMOing in on MTV in 2021 and have been trapped ever since. Please give me a price target so I can get out. I've actually never even heard of I mean I'm thinking about MTV as like actual MTV, but I mean this thing, it looks pretty flat here. It could have a big, you know, jump back to some of these highs. I would say like half a cent is definitely possible. Well, actually no, that's not even half a cent. That's like a fraction of a penny. I mean the all-time high is like around 3 cents. It's rough. I mean, it's hard to say if we actually get back to those levels or not. I've never even heard of this project, if I'm being honest with you, so I can't really give you a full, you know, update on it. Ondo's all-time high, I think I already had it on the chart real quick. So Ondo's all-time high is up around like $2.15 currently. Nexera, I could check out Nexera real quick. I haven't looked at Nexera in a very long time. Yeah, I haven't looked at this since like May of 2024. That's how long it's been since I've actually looked at this project. Um, See, this is the problem with Nexera, right? It's actually the same exact issue with like A0. So I was very bullish on Nexera when it was originally Alliance Block, right? Like Alliance Block was very solid. Then all of a sudden there was a huge hack or, you know, some sort of exploit. And then after that, you know, just the confidence behind the project started to kind of fall off. And the problem with it isn't so much about, oh, it was an exploit, so that's, you know, pretty bad, right? It's more so about if these projects are going to be like the future of finance, or, oh, you know, we're bridging this with that and we have, you know, high security and all of this. And all of a sudden there's an exploit that happens. It kind of goes against all of that. And I understand that like none of these projects are going to be perfect, but, you know, security is 100% the most important thing when it comes to these types of projects. So the fact that Nexera had that exploit, you know, they still did pretty well going into like 2024. They had this nice jump to like 30 cents. But now I feel like they haven't been making much noise at all in terms of like RWAs on chain. You know, Nexera hasn't really brought many tokenized assets on chain. I don't even know what the RWA value on Nexera is. I haven't looked at it since going back to like the end of 2023. So it's you know, your guess is as good as mine. I just feel like they had a lot of time to prepare for this. They were talking about tokenization back in 2021 when it wasn't even like a huge thing. So they had so much time to prepare. I just feel like they really didn't do much, which is why they kind of lost market opportunity. And the same even goes with like A0. I feel like it comes down to the team, right? Like Aleph Zero, the problem with this project was simply the team, right? Like the project, the tech, everything was good on it, but the team was just so mismanaged, unprofessional. They weren't doing anything, and it was just like a big upset because again, you know, this is a project that, you know, it looked as though it was going to be like this next big thing. It had this massive scalability. It was very, you know, high tech. The technology around it was extremely secure. All this great stuff, and then, you know, the team did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Yeah, I also got wrecked on A0. In fact, I probably put like close to $15,000 into A0, around like almost $1. It's like 80 cents to $1. And I locked it up in a wallet for staking, and you know, I just let it sit, and you know, one day I came back to the chart looking like this. So it's just something that happens. It's crypto. You know, you can't dwell on it, but it definitely does suck. You know, I the thing is like I can only give you guys the information that I have, and in front of us we have the tech stack, we have the team, their overall background. Outside of that, we have no control over these projects. What they do with these projects, it's totally on them. But yeah, some of these projects definitely, you know, they do hurt. I'm not too sure on how you can buy XDC in Canada. Maybe somebody in here that has purchased XDC could answer that question. The best thing to look at is like, you know, maybe looking that up on Google, or possibly even looking into like the markets tab. Some of these exchanges should probably be, you know, available in Canada. Still bullish on MBD. I've actually messaged the team regarding what their next update is, and I did hear back from the team. I could actually give you that update here, 1 second. So this is what they told me. They said that they are working on a few updates, working on it with GDA for the co-marketing announcement of the 2 RWA asset companies that they helped them secure, which should be coming soon. On top of that, they are nearing the end of their testing phase and final code adjustments for their platform, which will begin shortly and prepare to launch. And in terms of the RWA gold-backed platform, that launched in the group last week, which was back in, I think, May. And then they are going to be reviewing Indigo Precious Metals and discuss additional metals. Our MVP real estate platform is also finalized, and we'll start looking for partners. So I'm still pretty bullish on them. They are building. They're still, you know, making moves. They're still, you know, pushing updates. So I can't be upset about it. It definitely does suck to see a lot of these ERC20 tokens getting hurt, because of course, you know, with Ethereum taking so long to actually bounce back in a big way, you know, we're still kind of in the beginning phase. So I'm still giving a lot of these projects a little bit more time to cook. When you've said in the past we should take profits on the way up this bull run, should we take profits into fiat, or is it better to hold stablecoins? Um, I mean, either way is totally fine. A lot of people do like to kind of keep stablecoins just so that the money kind of stays within the ecosystem, which is also fine if you do that. I mean, realistically, it doesn't really matter. It's solely up to you. If you want to have it in your bank, or if you want to have it on like an exchange or in a cold storage device, I always recommend cold storage. What percentage off the top do you recommend? I mean, listen, I always recommend keeping like about 20% as a moon bag. Um, and maybe that's a little bit less than what most people would want, but the best thing that I could recommend in terms of having like an exit plan is have an amount of coins, right? Like say for so you buy, we'll just throw out a number, like all right, you buy 50,000 HBAR, okay, and you want to keep 20,000 forever. All right, you can now work that 30,000 into an exit plan and just have the exit plan with the 30K. that's pretty much, you know, how I would work it. Is just have a set amount that you will never sell and lock it away in cold storage, keep the rest, you know, free and floating, and that way you could just kind of exit out of the position whenever you feel confident about it. But also in the Discord, there is on the WAP page, there's actually a universal exit plan that you can utilize that actually works on pretty much any altcoin that you're investing into as well. In the premium side, there's dedicated exit plans if you want to follow that and get into the premium side. No problem at all. We are going up again. The WAP page. So if you actually go to the link that's pinned at the top, that will take you to it's like the Discord link, but it also has like exit plans and things like that tied to it. It really depends in terms of taxes. I've always mentioned that like if you're taking profits is taxable for sure, but if you are simply just buying and taking your initial investment out, you're not going to get hit with like that crazy of a tax at all, because again, you might be selling sure, but if you are making sure that your accountant knows what you invested, how much you invested, and how much you took out, and if it's the same amount, you're actually not profiting at all. It's just a simple break even gain. So you're not really going to pay a crazy amount of taxes on that. But again, it really does pay to have a solid like a solid accountant that knows crypto, knows the ins and outs of it. And it also helps for you to give him as much information as possible on like how much you invested, what you invested at, and all that. Because again, you know, you could be getting screwed on taxes if you're not doing things the right way. And it really does pay to make sure that they have all of the information as possible. Honestly, Bitcoin could break out any day. Looks like a giant bull flag on the daily. No, it's definitely consolidating. That's the thing. Like, if we think about Bitcoin, that's why I brought up the idea of us kind of just ranging back here. You know, we were just ranging the entire time until we actually did pop. Right now, if we look at this, I mean, this thing is just consolidating and consolidating. And the longer that we do this without losing 117.2K, you know, the more of a higher probability there is of us actually breaking out, flipping this into support, and just continuing to 130K. So, you know, it's still looking very bullish until we break those levels. You know, if we ever break these levels, you know, then yeah, sure, it kind of invalidates that. But for now, yeah, we could pop at any moment for sure. But guys, we are coming up on the 1 hour time frame here. I will definitely be going live again on Friday. It's always a great time doing these lives. I want to quickly say thank you to everyone that stopped by, dropped a super chat in the chat as well. Thank you to everyone that was, you know, showing up and, you know, supporting the live stream as well, hitting the like button. Thank you to all those that are subscribers of the channel as well. I can't thank you guys enough. I appreciate every single one of you. Without you guys, this channel simply would not be anything. So, you know, we are going to be wrapping up here in about 10 seconds. So I want to quickly say, I hope that you guys enjoyed the live stream. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.